some of our,
Sorry, Dean.
not a problem. We have left behind some of our residents who don't speak English necessarily as their first language, our residents who have lower and more moderate incomes. And we're doing better, and we have a lot more work to do to make sure that they are part of the equation, that their voice is at the table and that they are being represented. I'm currently seeing through a few initiatives that I championed when I was first elected. And I'm looking forward to bringing those to the finish line in my third term and to starting a couple of new initiatives that I hope to pass off to the next leader who gets to sit in my seat. I was inspired to run my first time around by Maplewood itself. We are a town of incredible civic engagement. I moved in 2015 when we were having those really tough and heated discussions about what to do with the old post office in the village. And should it be redeveloped and should it be turned into the apartments that we now know as the Claris building? I went to my first township committee meetings, and I was really struck at how active the governing body was, and how professional, how thoughtful, and how immersed the governing body at the local level was in talking about tough issues about zoning and land use and equity. A lot of governing bodies in suburban towns in particular are really, they just show up for photo ops, at ribbon cuttings, they do the ceremonial thing, but not here. We are an active governing body right alongside our employees, making sure that we are building and safeguarding and supporting a community that is healthy and well. So that's why I'm running for a third term, to see some of those things through. A little bit about who I am. Personally, I'm an attorney by training. I was a litigator for the vast majority of my life. I moved here from New York City with my husband, George. George works in the business part of showbiz. He works in the theater, mostly on the business side, not on the creative side, although he'd probably be mad at me for saying that because he has creative chops as well. And we moved here, as I said, in 2015. I worked in the family and criminal courts earlier in my career as a litigator. And then I moved into white-collar crime litigation on Wall Street. I got to see how the economy leaves behind a lot of people, and I got to see corruption firsthand, up close and personal. After 9/11, I sort of had a personal transformation, and certainly after the crash, the too big to fail crash, when I lost my job, like so many of us did on Wall Street at the time, I started going into a nonprofit grassroots organizing space, and I started volunteering and getting active in the community. I was appointed into my local community board. I was living in Hell's Kitchen in Manhattan, working on issues such as pedestrian safety, traffic, land use, zoning, public safety. This is how I got started. And so when I came to Maplewood and I saw how active this community was and how engaged people were on these issues, I was like, wow, I gotta get involved. And it was actually Vic DeLuca and a few others here tonight, district leaders, who opened the door and said, you know what, Dean, let's see what you're made of. Why don't you give this a shot? And I've never looked back. It's been incredibly rewarding. I really enjoy it. In terms of my style, I'm very accessible. You can see I'm away this week, taking a little bit of a much needed break, but I'm very, it's all about duty for me. I'm very keen on serving the public. If I get tagged on social media, I will reply very quickly. Everyone has my cell phone around the state. Don't do that. That's not a good idea. I don't recommend that. And I'm an empathic person. I really want to see if we can come to a resolution or seek a compromise where there is one. And I think that's what we do. I also have been a very strong voice on those things that really, really matter. And I've been a fighter, even when that put me up against some of the legacy in town that was not so keen on change. and we got into some disagreements at times. I wear everything on my sleeve. What you see is what you get. I think through the years, I've become more strategic and more thoughtful. And I always lead with my big heart and welcome all to express their concerns, because that's how we get better, by listening to others and working together to have a better perspective. Currently, professionally, I'm no longer litigating in the traditional sense. These days, I work on housing policy for the state of New Jersey, and I'm working on programs and assistance policy, as well as on the development side for the state of New Jersey. And housing is a big concern in Maplewood. That is a big stress for our seniors who feel like they don't have an aging in place opportunity in Maplewood. Maplewood's becoming more and more unaffordable. And in terms of creating new housing opportunities in town through redevelopment, but doing it in a manner that is thoughtful, smart, and balancing out the other needs that the community has and not creating unintended consequences. So that was a mouthful. I hope we'll get some questions to get into the weeds on some of those things. But this is why I'm running, and why I enjoy doing this so much. And I hope the voters who are joining us tonight, who are listening or who will watch this later, they will join me and support me and be part of the future of Maplewood that we are building today. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you, Dean. And with that, we're going to turn it over to Vic DeLuca, who's served on the Township Committee for many years, 14 of those years as mayor as well. And so, Vic, we turn it over to you to let us know why you are running and why you're seeking the endorsement of the Maplewood Democratic Committee.
Thank you, Ian. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming out and spending a little time on this rainy night to talk politics. Something I like to do. I've been doing it for a while here in Maplewood. As Ian mentioned, I've been on the Township Committee. This is my 24th year, 14 of those as mayor. If I'm lucky in November, I will be starting my 9th year on the Township, my 9th term on the Township Committee. So I guess I'm running because I haven't lost interest. I'm really, really excited about being an elected official. Probably, back 20 years ago, same kind of excitement, because I see this as the opportunity really to shape the community in which I live, in which we all live. And for me, it's about community building. It's getting together with your neighbors and your friends and the people who do commerce here, and just figure out what we want to do going forward. And I think about elections as, what's the future? What are we offering people? We can look at everything we've done, and all of us have done tremendous work, but it's really about what we want to do going forward. And I think there are some exciting things which we're going to bring to conclusion. The library that Dean mentioned, the merger of the fire department, the first time 2 towns have merged their fire departments. These are all things that in the next 3 years are going to come to fruition. And I would like to continue to work on those and really pass the torch at that point to get them really up and going. So as I think about the future of Maplewood, it's bright. It continues to be a place that people want to move to start a family, to create a business. And I think that's because we, as a community, we are welcoming, we are progressive, and we invest our time and our energy in making the community the best it can be. So here's a couple of things that I think I'd like to talk about tonight. I am really excited about some of the development opportunities that are coming down. You may have seen online today that Pete's Coffee is coming to Springfield Avenue, and everybody's getting all excited. We've worked, with a lot of different businesses. We have some new ones coming. Irvington Avenue, while it still has a long way to go, we've really worked to change that with the county, made huge investments in the infrastructure there. We have some other development there. There are things happening in the village. Cannabis happened. We got a recreation cannabis on Springfield Avenue. We have 2 opening in the village, 1 on Irvington Avenue. I think we've done things thoughtfully, and we're actually bringing in some good revenue for the town, non-property tax revenue, which is really important. So I see those opportunities to really work with business people and residents to shape our future. Dean did not mention the master plan, but that's underway. And that's really going to be the framework that we are going to work under for the next 10 years. And I think that we are being very deliberate in engaging the community. We've kind of put the brakes on it right now. Tomorrow night, Wednesday night, there's another session to get some more stakeholder involvement, and there's going to be more work on that. And that's really important because we want folks that are here now to really talk about what they want to see going forward in Maplewood. I am concerned about some things. Safety is an issue. We have had, obviously, we lost our very dear friend and very competent police chief in Jimmy Duvall. But now we're working with Al Sally, who has rose to the occasion, and our deputy chief Malloy, who really put together plans to try to make people safe. And that's really important. People have to feel safe in their communities. Otherwise, they're not going to move here and they're not going to want to stay here. So we have to do that in a thoughtful way. We're working with the community board on police to make sure that our officers are really integrated in the community and doing things that are positive, and that we're addressing the issues of crime, but also doing it in a way that's sensitive to all folks who live here. I'm concerned about the housing. Housing is becoming more and more unaffordable. And, we see it all the time in sales that are listed. The market is still, even with some of the pressure on interest rates, the market is still out of control. I've worked over the last 20 years on affordable housing here. We've required builders to come in. They have to set aside housing. We've worked on different ways. Dean has come up with the idea of accessory dwelling units. He and I worked on the ordinance. We got it through the township committee. We've spoken about it across the state. This is another opportunity to find ways in which to help folks who are here, and maybe be able to help younger people bring their older relatives to live with them, so that we get them to invest more time here in our community. I am concerned about our schools. I think the schools have had some real problems on the Board of Education. I'm glad to see now that we have some new leadership there. And I think that we as the town, Dean and Deborah Engel are on the liaison committee with the school board, and we need to revive that and begin having that conversation with the school board to make sure that we are providing a first-rate education and that we're moving forward on our integration plan. It's very important that we have people on board with that and that we move forward. That was a very well thought out plan, and we need to make sure that the Board of Ed implements it. So, again, Dean mentioned a lot of points. I think that I will continue to be a progressive voice locally, and the way in which when I say progressive, I mean progressive values, but also progressive in the way we interact with the community. I want to make sure that we stay as customer friendly, so that when you call the town hall or you call municipal office, we respond to you respectfully, we answer your questions, and we deliver the services to which you rightly deserve to get. And I want to work larger than local, as I have been, working on issues of strong gun regulations, LGBTQ plus rights across the state. As you know, we were in the forefront of marriage equality here. I did a joint marriage of 9 couples on the steps of Town Hall the first day we could do it here back some years ago. So we have to continue to do that. Reproductive health and rights, absolutely critical. Must make sure that we don't have any slippage there. And the whole issue of justice, whether it be environmental justice, political justice, economic justice. We have to continue to work on that. And I will do that as a local official. And again, working on a larger than local basis. I'm very excited about having our new Congresswoman. I think that's some new opportunities that we really haven't had in the past. We've been sort of a very small fish in the fishbowl when we were with Donald Payne, because of the needs and the importance of serving the people in Newark. Now we're in a different district, and I think we represent the most integrated and diverse section of her district, and we can bring a viewpoint that, quite frankly, she may not have really had to thought about with her former district. So I think we can be very instrumental in helping to shape her and national policy. I'm also really looking forward to our new legislative district for the first time, and I think all of us deserve congratulations on working for this, but certainly our chair, Ian. We now are going to have an assembly person from Maplewood. Hasn't happened since the 1960s, and that's really important. And I might add that the line right now is 3 African-American women. It's the only legislative district in the whole state of all 40 districts that have 3 African-American women. And Newark, by the way, the Newark districts, that'll be our district, and the North Ward, East Ward district will have 6 women, 6 out of 6 women representing Newark. So I'm really excited about that. I think it gives us an opportunity to work with some new elected officials and our state senator and our 2 assembly people to really shape some policies in Trenton that will be beneficial here. So, you know, I can go on. I think I'm going to stop because I really want to hear what you have to say. My background is I was a community organizer in Newark, and I left that and worked in the philanthropic field, funding organizer. So I was able to help groups around the country who were doing organizing on a number of different things, and came here and tried to continue to do that organizing, created the Hilton Neighborhood Association, helped to create the Springfield Avenue Partnership and other organizations around town. So I'm continuing my interest and energy in moving forward, and look forward to your questions and working with you to have a strong Democratic vote in November and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Vic. All right, so now we're going to turn it over to questions. And you know, typically this meeting has been for the Maplewood Democratic Committee, where members of the committee get to question the people who are seeking the endorsement. We do have somebody from the public who is here with us this evening as well, and we ask them to please feel free to participate and let us know if they have questions as well. So I'm going to ask people to either raise your hand with the you know, with the icon to raise your hand, or just raise your hand on your screen and let us know if you have a question. When you ask your question, we would ask that you please let us know if the question is directed to Dean or to Vic or to both, and then we'll give them an opportunity to answer those questions. So does anybody have any questions for the candidates who are seeking the endorsement of the Maplewood Democratic Committee? Please raise your hands. I don't believe that nobody doesn't have a question, right?
Oh, I'll ask you a question.
All right, there we go. Thank you, David.
And let me start by thanking both Vic and Dean, not only for putting your willingness to serve out for another 3 years, but for the incredible hard work and high level of responsibility that I see you do on this job for all of us. So much appreciated. And I would, on Vic's specific comment about customer service, I love being able to speak to a human being. I think on a lot of levels, that's a priority. I would hope that would be a priority for both of you going forward when you call town hall or DPW. My question, it's really more a request for information. I'd love to know where the master plan is, and specifically about recreation space. And since I've spoken to both of you on this in the past, I'd love to know what your attitude is about buying land so that we can provide more recreational space.
Who is that directed, David?
Oh, no, both of them. Yeah. Whatever they have both want to say about the master plan and about recreational space. Thank you.
Okay. Dean, would you like to go first?
Sure. So thanks, David, and thank you for being here. And, you know, David, you have a special place in my heart because you were an early mentor of mine. And I've never forgotten that, even though we haven't stayed in touch as much as we should have. COVID was responsible for a lot of that. But anyway, I just want you to know that, sir, since we're here together in this space. So thanks for the question. Where are we with the master plan? Vic mentioned the master plan. We are moving along. The master plan, the planning firm that is responsible for bringing to the planning board recommendations, a draft new master plan for adoption, is about to start another series of public engagements. As Vic noted, Wednesday night is the first one. And there will be a series of them coming up. Wednesday night, we ask people to please engage Wednesday night this week, starting at 7:30 at the Woodland in person. What they're going to do at that session is they're going to share what they have learned from the first set of public engagements that they began back in August of last summer. What are the common themes? What are people saying? But they're also start putting together their recommendations for our new master plan, their recommendations on land use and zoning, economic development, the recommendations on health and wellness in the community, sustainability, and of course, the recommendations for recreation. Recreation is a hot topic, David, as you know. Not only do we not have enough space, but the space that we have is not utilized in the most efficient or equitable manner. And we have taken that on head on this year again. With a better process, we think, and with engagement through the school district as well, a holistic approach, bringing in all various voices and stakeholders to talk about accessibility of our existing green space. And that's going to be an element in our master plan in terms of how to do that in the best way possible. But what's also going to be there are recommendations about our acquiring land, converting parking lots into green space, where there are opportunities like that. And I think Vic will probably talk about some of our redevelopment areas, where we thought we were working with someone to create a redevelopment opportunity, but that is no longer an active relationship. So now we have the opportunity to see what else we can do there. And creating greater open space, creating more recreation is at the top of our list. Recreation is not just having fun. Recreation is health and wellness. And we must do it in a manner that is accessible and equitable so that people feel like they have opportunities all across town and that they can access those opportunities. And like I said, we are discussing this with the school district as well in terms of their open spaces and having sort of a greater relationship and possibly an opportunity to use their fields in a way that we don't have that opportunity now, even though they use our fields. We are not an us them. Vic and I are not us and them people. We're not like that with respect to our sister towns in the region. He mentioned shared services, bringing our tax burden down through shared services, making government more efficient through shared services. And this is how we feel about the school district. We have to have an open and close relationship with them on issues such as recreation, on issues such as inclusive curriculum, on issues such as integration. And we will be doing a lot of that. And that's what I'm really excited to be a part of in this third term of mine. It's something that we only recently started putting together in a more holistic approach. As you recall, David, we had the debacle, let's call it what it is, of a process that led to turf not happening in the field, in the athletic field at DeHart, the fenced-in field there. And we can do better than that process, and we will do better. And we're going to do it in this more holistic manner that's truly more inclusive. So on Wednesday night, there's opportunity for you to learn more about what these recommendations are going to be and to voice your opinion and your concern. It's a 3-hour meeting on Wednesday night. So they're not just going to present and you just sit there and listen, it's going to be very active. It's not going to be passive participation. They're also going to ask you to speak up, ask questions, and also be part of the recommendations that they're starting to put together. Our timeline is that we're hoping, as per our contract with the planning firm, not hoping, but we have to present to the planning board a new master plan at the beginning of the last quarter of this year. That is our plan. We extended our public engagement sessions because we heard from the public that they felt like they didn't know enough that this was happening and they haven't had the opportunity to speak up. So we're creating more public engagement over the course of the next 3 months. Some of these will be in person, some of them will be virtual. And believe me, we're covering everyone, our seniors, our businesses, our youth. We're talking to our neighborhood associations. We are really not leaving any stone unturned. So be part of it, engage, and let's do this together.
So let me just add, the notion of public space, recreation space. So since I've been in office, and actually while mayor, we brought on, we obtained the 1978 Arts Center. We got that through a donation. We purchased the Woodland, made that, I think it would be hard, I think, for anyone to argue that has not been a success in making that a community space. But we purchased the senior center. So we expanded by purchasing facilities and expanding our service offerings, both recreational and cultural. We created an arrangement with the owner of Yale Corner. We created an urban park that's at the corner of Springfield Avenue and Yale Street. We're doing some other work, creating a green pocket park at the corner of Lexington and Tuscan Street. Now, David, you specifically were asking about recreation space, and so I'm dealing with it in the broader sense, but on recreation space, I think that we are looking at some sites. There is, as Dean mentioned, there's an industrial site that we're looking at. We've contacted the owner, and we're trying to set up a meeting to see what can be done. We're keeping an eye on St. Andrew Kim Church on Parker. Huge facility there. To see, what they might do. We've been talking to Father James over the years, and just going to try to figure out what we might do if, in fact, they're either downsize or decide that they're no longer going to be there. That, I think, is an opportunity that we're going to go after. Melissa Mancuso, our Director of Community Services, and we went to the Union Boys and Girls Club to have a meeting with them to see if we could participate in, actually utilize their swimming pool in the off season so that we could offer swimming classes and lessons for seniors and also for adults and for young people. So this is something, some of it is to try to be creative to see what is out there, because some of these items, for example, a swimming pool, an indoor swimming pool is a huge cost, but there are some around us that, the Union Boys Club is 8 minutes away from Springfield and Prospect, even probably less. You can get there. And so we're looking at what exists around us that we might be able to utilize. So there are some things, in the hopper, and we definitely know that we need to have more green space, particularly in the area where DeHart is, where we have a heat island. We don't have enough, it's just hot there, and just need some more green space in that area. So we'll be looking to do that.
All right, thank you, Vic. One of our district leaders had to drop off the call, Allison Rose Ford, who is district leader in Maplewood District 17. I'm going to read her question for both of you. Hi, Ian. Thank you for organizing this important meeting. I'm sorry I have to hop off for a work meeting with Japan. My comment for both candidates is, Maplewood is supposed to be welcoming for all types of family. However, for single parents, Maplewood is quite the opposite. Child before care and after care is unattainable for many, both due to costs and due to sheer lack of available spots. What will you do to make childcare available for all? Is there a way to prioritize before and after care to single parent guardian households, reduce costs, transportation, tax credits, other ideas? I have to hop off now. I'm sorry. That's from Allison Rosefort, and that's for both of you. So Vic, I think we'll turn that one over to you first.
Fine. So I think one thing we have to do is I know the governor's made some more money available for pre-kindergarten programs, and the school system has worked with the Y and trying to provide some of these programs. The Y was able to utilize St. Joseph's School and do some work there. Again, we were looking at St. Andrew's Kim Church as an opportunity. We are constrained. We are constrained by space, and it is a challenge. The state requirements on childcare are pretty strict, and you also have to find providers, and there's limitations on what we can do. I think this is one of those things that we need to advocate in Trenton for. We need to see if we can get some more money. It's absolutely critical, because folks, particularly single parents, they have to be able to work, and working means that your children have to be, safe at both ends of the school day. And if you have a preschooler, it's even, more expensive. Let's face it, you have a child in childcare, you're paying almost as much as to send the child to college. And so something's got to give here. Federal government turned on some family credit, child care credits. They turned back the clock on that, and we have to keep fighting for it. We will do whatever we can on the zoning side to make these available. Anyone who wants to come into town, we'll work with them to find a way in which they can open and make sure that we can help them with any kind of zoning issues, building issues. But it's really a question of finances. We don't have any finances at the local level. We're also not able to give tax credits locally. But I think we just have to, advocate at the state level to see if we can get some more funding.
Thank you, Vic. Dean?
Agreed. We are constrained in a lot of ways. I wish that we could make tax credits happen at the local level and give out those subsidies, but that's not how the system is set up, unfortunately, and we don't have that capability. What we can do, as Vic noted, is have our zoning be as less burdensome and barrier-free as it can be, so that these centers can open up easily and flourish. And we were very, very supportive of our local childcare centers during the lockdown, when there were so many unknowns happening, and learning was happening at home, not at the childcare centers. And obviously, as we came out of the pandemic, and kids returned to school and parents returned to work in some capacity outside of the home anyway, we started advocating to the governor's office and to our state reps that more childcare funding and support needed to be made available. That is a top concern for us here in Maplewood. It's a #1 issue that we hear about a lot, and it applies to all parents, even parents with 2 incomes. It's very, very expensive and very, very difficult to coordinate. And I think the governor's recent announcement of his new budget for the new fiscal year that includes greater pre-K support is a step in the right direction, but more needs to be done, and it needs to be done at the state level as soon as possible. So we will be advocating for those, for that level of support to become available for our communities. And this is what it's all about, right? Like Allison asked that question, and then we engage immediately with our state reps, with our federal reps, because they need to know that this is an issue for us. This is our job as local representatives. We need to represent these concerns to those who have the capability to make a change, that we do not have that capability. And that's how we make it work. And that's why it's important to have representation at the local level that is strong and engaging as we are, to bring those concerns to light. Mikey Sherrill needs to know that, our new congresswoman, right? A lot of times Maplewood and South Orange are written off when we talk about subsidies and assistance and all kinds of social services support. Oh, those towns are affluent. They don't need that stuff. And let me tell you, we do, because I see it at the state. I know of residents who are hurting, keeping their housing alive and stable, right here in our affluent Maplewood. So these are programs that need to be made available, and we are fighting to make them more available, and to share that information with people. I think part of the problem sometimes is when the programs are made available, we don't do the best job that we can do to get that information out there. Communications. So we're focusing on bolstering our communications. Believe it or not, that's part of the solution here. There were a lot of programs available to help people in foreclosure, to help people in eviction. Vic is leading a county program, a webinar or a town hall in person coming up about home improvement. A lot of people will not, they will discount those things that they don't apply to them, but they do, and they can. And these are programs that are there to help, and our tax dollars have paid for them. So we will continue getting the word out better to everyone to avail themselves of these opportunities that help the bottom line from month to month.
Thank you, Dean. All right, I see we have a question from our district leader, Faria Shugla.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Dean and Vic, for stepping up. Thank you so much. My questions, I have a few, like I always do. My first question is taxes. We are paying really high taxes, and that's what's driving medium to low income people out of Maplewood. Do you have a plan to keep these people and keep our community as diverse as we want it to be? That's one part of it. The second part of it is that we have aging buildings, we have aging structures. Is there anything in your plan to deal with these, to deal with preserving and beautifying and our sidewalks, streetlights, pipes, structures? Do you have anything in your plan to do something about that? And how do you plan on introducing equal housing opportunity for everybody, or people of all incomes? So these are my few questions. They're interconnected to each other. Also, one more thing. Can we do something about busing? Can we bus kids to school to reduce traffic in the mornings, and just to enhance that sense of community again? Thank you.
Thanks, Fariha. Those are some really good questions, and they are related to each other, to one another. And I think I'll take an attempt here to address all of them. Taxes. What we can do to lessen the burden of taxes is ensure that we get more state aid from the state government, and to go after shared services for better, efficient government, so that we don't have to raise taxes for every service and every program. If there's opportunity to share with a neighboring town, we should, right? As you may know, Fariha, our taxes are in some ways out of our control. Almost 60 cents of every dollar of your taxes go to the school district to fund the school district, There are some talks, there have been some talks at the state level about school regionalization to lessen the tax burden, because the way the school districts are being funded, for better or for worse, is through property taxes. That is where the majority of your money goes. Another 25% goes to the county to fund the county, and the rest that's remaining, about 15 to 20 cents, comes back to the local municipal government for us to do all the things that we have to do, pave our roads, and some of the infrastructure improvements that you just noted. Speaking of infrastructure improvements, you're absolutely right. In the past couple of years, in particular, we've focused, when we look at our capital budget and we look at making those decisions, which projects are we going to approve? Where are we going to spend hard-earned tax money? Infrastructure improvements are at the top of the list. We've had a couple of recent very strong storms that really compromised a lot of town, including taking life. And our focus is to improve our infrastructure, the sewer, some of the compromised walls along the state waters that go through our town, our facilities as well. We talked about recreational opportunities and other opportunities using our facilities for the community. Well, those facilities have to be safe facilities and conducive to those programs and services. So making those improvements. Our roads, we're putting more and more roads every year on our annual road program, which is the program that itemizes the worst to the least worst roads in terms of their repair, prioritizes rather in terms of their which roads need to be repaired more sooner than others. And we have about 10 to 11 roads that we do every year. And that's full repaving, not just overlaying and filling in potholes. But a lot of that stuff costs money beyond what we can raise here locally, believe it or not, through property taxes. And so that's where the federal funds are really important. We're really heartened that the Biden administration has come along and focused on infrastructure improvements around the nation, including transportation, rail improvements, bus and transportation improvements around the nation. And that money for infrastructure improvements is starting to make its way to every state, including to New Jersey. And that money is starting to make its pass through the state to the local municipalities. And we have certainly put in applications for funding, right? And that's going to be, again, for those very expensive but very important infrastructure improvements. As we improve our infrastructure, that includes improving our homes, because those are the biggest assets that we have, right? As we think about our retirement, that's where we spend most of our time. We think about health, well and healthy community. We think about homes that are healthy and well as well. Talking about the services that we can make available to help people improve their homes for those that cannot, but also talking outside of the box and thinking about and implementing new opportunities for housing that create more housing opportunity, that create community that is more diverse, but doesn't necessarily mean always new development, because we are densely populated. We're the most densely populated state in the nation. And we're built up with a few opportunities here and there for redevelopment yet to happen, soon to come, by the way. We are pretty built up. So how do we ensure that all kinds of different people are living here and that they can afford to stay here and to age in place? Well, we're looking at co-housing. We're looking at, as Vic mentioned earlier, accessory dwelling units, which is creating smaller independent living quarters, either attached to the principal house or detached on the same lot of the principal house, and making those available as an opportunity for a new family to move in. One of the things I can tell you, foreshadowing, that the planning firm may recommend in the coming weeks is our ADU ordinance being amended to allow for two separate owners on the same lot, an owner of the ADU and the owner of the principal lot, of the principal dwelling, in order to create real home ownership opportunity for a family that's just starting out, right? And that may be controversial, right? So stay engaged, because with all of these changes that we know we have to make, we have the data. The data shows that we're losing people, that people can't stay here, they can't upkeep their homes. We know that these things are happening, but with the changes that are required, there are going to be people who say, wow, that's a significant change to suburbia, right? If you're telling me, Dean Dafis, that you're going to recommend that you create more multifamily zoning in town and you're lessening single family zoning, what does that mean about where we live? Suddenly you are doing what? You are threatening, for some people anyway, you're threatening the character of our town, right? These are going to be the tough conversations that we're going to make. I'm telling you, I can assure you, if I get reelected, I'm tough enough to lead those conversations, but I'm going to need you and others like you who are concerned about these things to support me in those efforts, because these are the things that we have to focus on. Busing, transportation. Vic alluded to, the integration plan, well thought, hard fought. After a federal decree, it was so embarrassing. We have to get to the finish line of our school integration. We cannot go back to neighborhood schools and schools that are segregated the way that they were. But there has to be a transportation plan, right? Without transportation, there's no integration. Unfortunately, Farija, we cannot bus, if you will, the students on our jitneys. Transporting students is highly regulated in New Jersey. It has to be a yellow bus. It has to be approved. It has to have all the special blinking lights. It has to have that stop sign, right, for the cars behind it when it stops to let off children at the stop by the school. And so we considered and we looked into and we even offered using our jitney to do that. But unfortunately, our jitney can only be used to, for the most part, transport our commuters, our adults. So, but you know what? There may be an opportunity there too. Maybe we're not using the jitney as well as we could be, right? We had conversations. If you hang around as long as Vic has, he will tell you that some of the things that, people like me who've only been in town a little bit, and I think I have a brand new idea. And then Vic will say, oh, we talked about that like 10 years ago and no one was interested, right? But sometimes these ideas are recirculated because the time is right now when it wasn't right before in terms of getting that communal support. So maybe the jitney can be used to transport people in a regular route into and out of our business districts to alleviate traffic, to alleviate parking stresses. That's something that we looked into a few years ago. And again, people weren't sort of ready for it, but COVID changed a lot, including possibly supporting ideas such as this one. So I think I've answered or at least addressed all four of your questions, Faria, and I'll let Vic do the same.
I'm just going to be real quick. The taxes are very difficult, and as Dean said, we get our money to run the government in really 4 different ways. Property tax, which is the main thing, state tax or state income, which has decreased over the years, although it has gotten a little bit better. Income that we raise, fees. And then now we have this special tax. We have the marijuana tax or cannabis tax. And we're budgeting to bring in $500,000 this year, maybe even more when we, finally get to the final budget in cannabis tax. This is something that's brand new. So this means that we don't have to raise property taxes as high because we're getting this new money. And so this is something that we're looking at. This is an opportunity that a lot of towns who have agreed to have cannabis facilities see this as a way to bring more money into their coffers. On the issue of housing and fixing up housing, we've been working with the county. Tomorrow and Saturday, we're going to be having a workshop on the home improvement program, and that'll allow people to get money from the county. It's federal money, so they can fix up their house. If they live there for 10 years, the loan is forgivable. So it's really free money to fix up your house. On the aging infrastructure, we're on top.
Sorry, Vic, can you repeat the last part about the federal
yes.
funding?
So
Thank you.
it's federal funding for a home improvement program. You get, if you're income qualified, you get the money. If you live in the home for, I believe it's 10 years, the loan is forgiven. And there's a session tomorrow night at the Senior Center. That's 106 Burnett, and that's from 6 to 8 p.m. And it's also Saturday, same place, Senior Center, 106 Burnett, and it's from 10 a.m. to noon. And someone can just come there to find out information. The county runs this program, and we're doing it with them to get some folks in Maplewood to avail themselves of this program. Just on the infrastructure, as Dean said, we're looking at a couple of different ways to see if we can raise some money. We've had a meeting with the staff of Mikey Sherrill's office, talking about 3 or 4 projects that we'll be submitting to her so that she can put it into the congressional meat grinder to see if we can get some money directed to Maplewood. We're also looking at NJ Department of Environmental Protection. They have some money that has come to them from the infrastructure bill and the Inflation Reduction Bill, which really funded a lot of environmental stuff. And we're looking for money to fix our storm sewers. And then just on the other two, the equal housing, Dean mentioned the affordable housing, the accessory dwelling units. We also changed the ordinance for boarders, allowing people to bring in someone to live with them in their home. And this is a way for them to stay in their home, have someone who can help them with some of the bills, and also just give them companionship. We do have this requirement: any new development that goes up, 15% has to go to affordable housing. It's rental, and we require that housing be available for families. So we do require 2 and 3 bedroom units, not 1 bedroom, not singles, not seniors, but this is for families. And then also on just the equal housing stuff, we are in discussion with a developer to build 17 affordable housing condominiums. And this would be a way for families who meet the affordable housing guidelines to get some equity, some housing equity. And the last thing on busing kids to school, yes, the school district really screwed this one up, and they continue to screw it up because they haven't done the required study on hazardous routes. And we're in favor of making sure that as part of the integration plan that they do the busing that's required.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Vic.
Thank you, Vic and Dean, and thank you for Rhea. We have another question from Shannon Cuddle.
Hi, Dean and Vic, and I just want to say thank you so much for, of course, running again and being of service. Dean, you're looking very tan, and hope you're feeling rested. So I just wanted to a couple of things, just to highlight some things, and one just to echo. Since the busing thing came up, that's a school board related issue, and I appreciate the town wanting to support endeavors around that. I think that's really important right now in regards to making sure that we're creating access points for all students. Aside from that, I know both Dean and Vic, you have been very instrumental in wanting to ensure we're creating inclusive communities. We've talked about that some tonight, but I think with the larger things that we're hearing around the state and nationally in regards to efforts against our libraries, progressive libraries, and our school district, even our township. I know you both strongly feel that that these are important issues to you. I think it would be positive if you could feel comfortable around the fact that the reasons of supporting our town as a welcoming, inclusive space, a libraries, schools, and our communities as a whole, and why that matters now. Thank you.
Who wants to go first?
I'll take it first if Vic doesn't mind.
ahead.
So Shannon, thanks for that. I agree. We talked about taxes. We talked about storm sewers, infrastructure, housing. We should also talk about ensuring that our communities remain the safe harbors that they have been. Shannon, you know that I take this issue to heart, and Vic does as well. You know, Vic talked about being one of the first mayors who married same-sex couples. George and I had the honor of being married by Vic almost a year ago last June. It's important for us to engage in justice and in equality, and not just by talking and taking performative actions, but actually by walking our talk. And I think we've done that. We've done that by speaking out on those national issues that affect us here locally. We've certainly adopted several resolutions on those issues. And we will be doing more to send the message out there that here in Maplewood, we are a safe harbor for all students of all kinds and all abilities, by the way. Let's not forget our special needs population, and for all families and households. We're going to be doing a lot more this year in light of the national trend to go after, in particular, the LGBTQ community. Our trans kids are under attack, and there's legislation around the country right now to essentially go after, make an advance. Every time we step a little bit forward and we think we've made it, once again, we are dehumanized as people. And we will not let that stand in Maplewood. I had a very tough conversation recently in my office with a parent who is a local parent. Yes, you heard that correctly, who is part of a national effort to attack trans kids. That was a very tough conversation with that parent. I wanted to be there for the parent. I wanted to connect with the parent as a human. I wanted to give them space to speak and to share. But I also made it very clear that in Maplewood, we proudly we're proud, right? We're Maplewood proud, we're Democrat proud, and we're LGBTQ proud. And that includes our trans students and our non-binary students and non-binary population. Working with township administration to finally get us on the Human Rights Campaign Equality Index. I'm hoping that we're going to get a perfect score or close to a perfect score. And that means having all of the necessary policies in place at the municipal level to show that. What does that mean? What are some of those things? Like gender neutral single-use restrooms. I was an advocate for that years back before it became something that a lot of municipalities have since adopted. We're looking at redoing our employee handbook to ensure that gender identity and gender expression are intended categories against discrimination. And we are also going to be looking at some, as we did recently, in terms of adopting better contracting policies with in public projects. to ensure prevailing wage and to ensure, that unions are getting some of these jobs. We are also going to be looking at better contracting ordinances to ensure that there are, at least with our local vendor opportunities, LGBTQ business set aside to include, we have LGBTQ businesses right here in Maplewood and proudly owned and operated. And while we have some other minority businesses that we promote, as we should, women-owned and other, we need to do better to also promote our LGBTQ businesses. So these are things that we can do. These are concrete things at the local level that really have a strong impact. They tell our community that everyone is welcome here and everyone is safe here and everyone is affirmed and acknowledged in Maplewood.
Yeah, I'll just say that, every year we have about 400 families that move to Maplewood, whether they buy a house or they rent an apartment. And that may even be on the low side. So that's 400 families that are making a decision where to live. And we want to make sure that they feel that Maplewood is their choice. And why? Because they move here because of the quality of life, because it's an inclusive, a welcoming community, that it reflects the real world, that it strives to get people involved and engaged. And that's what we want to be as a community. So when we fly the flags, when we paint the rainbow crossing or Black Lives Matter on the street, those are important statements of we as a people, as a government, as a society, that everyone's welcome, everyone's to be respected. Our community board on police is a statement in and of itself, that we're trying to develop better relationships between the police and the community and understand that those are challenges and there's institutional racism and biases that we have to work through every day. So I think that's why we should do it, because it's right to do. And it also makes sense from a municipal operation to do it that way, because if we are a good government and we're a welcome government and we're a welcoming community and an open community, and we take firm stands on things like, the keeping books out of libraries and say, we're not going to do that stuff. People move here because they want to move here. And that's what's important. And they will then become stronger supporters of it. And just, Sharon, I might say that we have a responsibility to speak out beyond that. I know you were leading us at the MDC and other areas to look at Glenridge and what was happening in Glenridge. And you've been really diligent in sharing with us what's happening in other parts of New Jersey, down in Ocean County and Monmouth County and out in Western Jersey. And we need to work with our local elected officials to support those who are sticking up for those rights out there in those communities and be their allies. We live in a bubble. And when you get outside this area, it's very different than where we are here. But it is incumbent upon us to use those values that we have here to work with others and be allies to others around the state and around the country.
Thank you, Vic and Dean. I don't see any other questions that anybody has this evening. So we'd like to invite you both to take the opportunity to make some brief closing remarks before we close the meeting for the evening. And Dean, we'll have you go first again.
Thanks, Ian. And thank you all for taking the time tonight to join us and to hear a little bit about who we are and why we're running again and what we're looking to accomplish and what our style is in governing and why it's important for us to be reelected. I'm really excited to start, in the coming couple of weeks to really get our joint campaign. Vic and I are running together, Dean and DeLuca, or Dafis and DeLuca. So if you've got your lawn sign and you're a supporter from last time, bring it on out to the lawn. It's time again. I'm really excited to get the campaign going and to do what I love doing more than anything else, which is knocking on doors and speaking to people. And please, speak up, engage, be candid it's, we do have some tough things that we have to work through, and we want to hear from you. And we want to engage with you. This has always been about the community and the people in it for me. It's not about me. We make a little tiny stipend. None of us are going to become the next governor. This is not about fame and celebrity or power. It's about making the community better. And that has always been my approach. And I never forget that. And I love meeting new people, and I love getting new ideas and suggestions. I'm never threatened by that because I don't know everything. And it's always when we work together, that's where the best ideas are. They're in the community board on police and the community fridge and all of the things that we were talking about tonight. These were things that came in the community. They weren't one person's ideas, and we worked together, but we were strong leaders in seeing them through, even at times when there was a lot of people against us on those issues. So that's who I am. And what you're going to get from me if you vote for me for another 3 years is more of the same. I am extremely committed. I work hard. My approach is to lead with my heart, but to also be thoughtful and intelligent and strategic. And I've learned a lot in the past 6 years. And I try not to let the bureaucracy or the legacy sometimes beat me down. Change takes time, and it requires dialogue, even with those who disagree with us. As I mentioned, the gentleman I was talking with in my office a few days back for almost 2 hours. But that's how we get change to happen. And I'm excited. And I hope that you'll join me in this effort, and you'll be part of all the great things that are going to continue happening in Maplewood. Thank you for the opportunity tonight. Thank you to the MDC. Thank you, Ian. Really appreciate you offering us this opportunity to get our message out there.
Thank you very much, Dean. And now we'll turn it over to Victor Luca.
Thank you, Ian. Thanks, everybody, for coming out and spending a little over an hour with us, talking through some of these issues. I want to just make sure you understand that Dean and I are committed to the community, committed to the Democratic Party, and committed to electing Democrats up and down the line. We think that the Democratic Party has the values that we've been talking about tonight. And it's important that we work, and that means getting out there. That means getting out to vote, even though we may not have opposition in the primary, we may not have opposition in the general election in November. It still means that we need to put the signs out, and we need to do the walking and the knocking and the talking. I always say to candidates when they first come and say, I want to run for the township committee, and we endorse them, and they say, well, it doesn't look like I'm going to have a tough election. I said, well, it doesn't mean that you don't knock on doors. Because if you're not going to knock on doors as a candidate, then you're not going to knock on doors as an elected official. And you need to be responsive to those folks. When they contact you, you need to get back to them, whether you're standing on their porch talking to them about that issue, or you're sending an email or talking to them on the phone. So I'm committed to being out there. And I also think that it's good for us as an MDC to be very strong, because as I said, we have a new legislative district. And the way we got this assembly person is we strutted our stuff. We delivered the vote year after year after year, and we went to the county chairman and said, look at what we did. And we need to continue to do that, continue to show that we can pull out the vote here, that we can elect the Democrats, that we then have influence. Dean mentioned that $8.4 million we got for the library. Well, I was in Governor Murphy's ear the day after the election about that, and he understood that Maplewood had to be on the list, and had to be on the list high, because we delivered the vote. And sometimes it's a little distasteful to talk this way, but it's a little bit about political reality. And when Dean and I are talking to our Congress people and our state legislators, a lot of it is we feel empowered by the work we all do as Democrats, because we're delivering votes. And we can sit there and say to them, you know, we want to work with you. We want to make sure your agenda and our agenda coincides and we can move it forward. And they understand that we're delivering votes to them, and they understand that they have to deliver support to us and our community. And that's what it's about. That's how we're going to address some of the issues that we talked about around funding and infrastructure repairs, and even the childcare question. We need some money to do that, and we need to go to our allies at the state and the federal level and get them to fund us. I'm committed to continuing to do that. Sometimes we work on very mundane things like, should there be a stop sign on this corner? And sometimes we work on huge, important things. And all of those things matter because we're serving the community, and we're trying to make sure that from an individual to a collective, we're moving things forward. And that's, I just want to thank you again tonight, and we look forward to working with you in the campaign.
Right. Thank you, Dean and Vic, both. Beautifully said. And we really appreciate both of you coming out here this evening and letting us know why you would like for the Maplewood Democratic Committee to endorse you again, to run and to serve on the Township Committee. I just want to spend 2 minutes going over what's going to be happening, the next steps going forward, and what people can do. So the Maplewood Democratic Committee will be meeting again a week from tonight on Monday to vote on who it is that we will be endorsing. And the only people who've come before us are Dean and Vic, but again, I expect that being exceptional public servants and exceptional candidates, that they will very likely be endorsed at that meeting. That does not mean that other people cannot run. We do have a June 6th Democratic primary. Anybody can run in that election, whether they are endorsed by the Maplewood Democratic Committee or not. People can run in the Republican primary on that date as well. That hasn't happened for a very long time, but we would like to see some Republicans get involved in the process as well. At that point, there will be campaigning going on for that June 6th primary. People who would like to be on the ballot for the June 6th primary must submit their petitions to Liz Fritzen in the Township Clerk's office by March 27th. That's 1 week earlier than it has been in previous years. And that's a directive that has come from the county and the state. It's not something that we've decided here. So if you know anybody else who wants to run, they can run, but they have to submit their petition on March 27th in order to be on the ballot for June 6th. So thank you again, especially to Vic and Dean, and thank you to all of you for being here this evening. Have a good night.